Alright guys, so you're carving, you got a bunch of bugs in your wood. Should you throw the wood out? Should you keep it? Well, stay tuned, we'll talk about it next. Alright, hey, I am cutting up some big pieces of pine today and just remove the bark. Now I've had this stuff sitting for, I don't know, a year and a half, and I'll bring you in close here so you can see some of the bugs and grubs that are in there. That's a big grub. See how there's even a worm right there. All kinds of stuff crawling around on this thing. I already started making some cuts into it. Now when I come into these things, I just brush them aside and keep going. There's really no reason to get rid of this wood. There's nothing wrong with it. Sometimes you have some big holes from those grubs getting in there, and honestly, carve your piece to work with it. You know, it's character. You're not going to have another piece that is the same. Here, we'll walk over here. This is another piece of pine from a whole different tree, and it's got quite a few holes in it. Let's see if we can point them out here. Here's one, and they're all around the sides here. This tree had been down about a year and a half as well on a customer's property, and so after it sits, these bugs get into the wood through the bark. Well, they get through the bark by burrowing holes, and then they lay their larvae, which turns into the big grubs I just showed you on the other one. Now, the only thing that can be a little tough is making sure you get them all out. I tend to use an air line, or I use some carb cleaner, WD-40, something like that. Spray all those holes really well, and yeah, just try to clean them out. Sometimes it's just, they're going to be there, you know, and I let the customer know, you know, try to talk them into making sure this is a piece that's outside. And if they see any piles of sawdust, you know, let me know, or I let them know how to take care of it. It just kind of comes with the territory. I'm not going to throw this wood out just because, you know, there's some bugs in it. Now, if the wood is rot and it's full of termites and bugs like that and ants, and it's really chewed up, really tore up, then that's something that I'm going to get rid of, because I don't really want that on my property. Now, with all the wood around, more than likely there's probably some termites here, but I'd rather stay away from the carpenter ants as much as possible. They're a real headache. Here, we'll jump forward. I'll show you some carvings I've done that have some holes, and kind of go through just blowing some grubs out. So these carvings behind me here came from some wood that had been down for about a year. What usually happens when wood's down that long and the bark is still on, the bugs get in through the bark, and well, either they live between the bark and the actual wood, or they burrow into the wood, creating a bunch of holes. I don't discard these pieces. Hey, I still carve it. It adds character. It is what it is, right? Well, sometimes you get a bunch of big, nasty holes, like in this eagle. I mean, you can see the size of that, right? Get my finger in there. This is a big hole here. These aren't just dark lines. These are from a grub that gets in there. Its scientific name is, I have no idea, but it's a big giant grub that gets in the wood. This piece down here has some of them too. There's actually one there that got ripped in half from the chainsaw. Check it out. Oh, so nasty, right? There's part of one. Show that guy to you. So these guys are pretty big, you know. That's no trickery of the camera. The thing's like an inch long, quarter of an inch wide. I mean, if we could eat them, probably full of protein. I'm not gonna. I don't recommend it. So, what do? Well, like I said, I don't waste the wood. I carve it. As you can see, all these carvings behind me here have had some kind of bug in it. Most of them have been that grubs like that. I believe what happens is another bug comes, lays the larva, or eggs, hatches into those grubs or larvae, and they burrow all through the log on you. So what do? Well, I recently posted a picture of a large grub I pulled out on Instagram, and another carver said he likes to use a flexible piece of wire. He'll fish it down in there and pull them out. I could see where that's feasible, sure. There's some drawbacks to that in my mind. You're gonna hit spots where you can't get in there far enough. So something I like to do is grab my airline with the hose and hit those holes. See what comes flying out. You know, got them up here. Now, if you're not careful, those grubs come flying out like rockets, and sometimes they hurt because they're coming out 100 miles an hour. But there's one there. Did you catch him? Did you see him on camera? Let's see if we can find him on the ground here. Where'd that thing go? That was a big one too. Well, I found that one that just came flying out. It's a little smaller than the last one we were looking at, but as you can see, these guys are pretty good size. I mean, they make some big holes. Airline works great. Go through, pop them all out. Something else you can do, can of WD-40. Make sure it's got this awesome red nozzle on there, because you can fish that thing right down into some of these holes like this and just spray the crap out of it. Now, I do not use the WD-40 until my bears are done, sanded, painted, and finished and fully dry. And even then, depending on the paint and the finish you use, there could be a chemical reaction. Something you'll have to play around with. But the WD-40 kills those guys. What happens is you tend to think you've got all these grubs out, and you'll finish your carving and it'll sit for a day, and you'll find a whole mess of sawdust coming out in a spot like this right here. Let me see. You see all this loose sawdust? This is not from the chainsaw. This is from a grub that's living right here in this bear's face. Right there. He's got a big hole. When I finished this carving, I didn't see anything in there. Right there is where he's at. So what I'll do is I'll hit that with the airline. Heck, you guys are here, let's do it now. All right, so he's not coming out. I could see the thing way down in there though. It's a pretty big one. This is an example of where that wire with a little bit of hook on the end would come in perfect, because it's brought the grub close to the surface. You can fish it in there, hook them out. I don't currently have one ready to go, so I'd have to find a piece of wire and do that, but just figured I'd walk you guys through this a little bit. That's really it though. You know, there's no reason to throw those logs out. Be mindful about how you're carving so you don't have huge holes in your faces, your bears or eagles or whatever it is you're doing. And honestly, when you sell it, if someone asks, it's character. It's just the way it is. You won't have another piece like it, because those holes will never be the same in every one. Listen, I hope you guys liked this video. Hope it was kind of fun, maybe helping you out a little. Be sure to hit subscribe and give me a thumbs up, and we'll see you next time.